Thomas Jefferson is the author of a line from the Declaration of Independence. It says, "Let facts be submitted to a candid world."
There's a very important question you might want to ask yourself. How important is it really to know the truth about anything, especially in America? How really important is it to know the truth, the factual truth about anything?
This whole idea that you have some documents which you say at least reinforce the idea that the government had advanced knowledge that 9/11 could happen.
Absolutely.
And didn't work to stop it. Now, I find a hard time believing you actually believe that.
It was over a year before 9/11, a Pakistani-British man told the FBI an incredible tale, that he'd been trained by followers of Osama bin Laden to hijack airplanes, and he confessed he was now in America to carry out an attack.
Khan was recruited into Al-Qaeda at a British mosque, then flown to Lahore, Pakistan for hijack training in a Mach 767 cockpit before being sent to America, where he was told he would hijack a plane from JFK and fly it into a building.
I told him before the 9/11, about more than a year, we hijacking in America Airline.
Khan claims he got cold feet. Instead of meeting his contact, he slipped away, gambled away all his money, and in fear turned himself in and confessed.
I've been to Pakistan. I know about this hijacking, something going on.
NBC News has learned Khan passed not one, but 2 polygraphs. A former FBI official says Newark agents believed him, but word came from headquarters, quote, "Return him to London and forget about it."
Halfway between Baltimore and Washington, D.C. is a hidden city, the headquarters of the National Security Agency, NSA. Here, tens of thousands of mathematicians, computer scientists, analysts, linguists, and voice interceptors work in absolute secrecy. NSA's job to secretly listen in on telephone conversations, email communications, anything and everything that might warn of plots to do harm.
The scope of what happens at NSA is mind-boggling. I don't think the average person can even begin to conceive of the staggering depth and breadth of what they have to do.
But was NSA doing its job before the 9/11 attacks? It's a question that has never been thoroughly investigated.
None of this information that we're speaking about this evening is in the 9/11 Commission report. They simply ignored all of it.
But author James Bamford has investigated and come up with a chilling tale of terrorists living in San Diego, communicating with bin Laden's operations center in Yemen, moving freely about. And all the while, NSA is listening in.
But the NSA never alerted any other agency that the terrorists were in the United States and moving across the country towards Washington.
The idea that the government had advanced knowledge that 9/11 could happen.
Absolutely.
And didn't work to stop it. Now, I find a hard time believing you actually believe that.
NSA finds one very important dot. It intercepts an alarming call to the house in Yemen, instructing 2 Al-Qaeda foot soldiers to fly to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, for what sounds like a terrorist summit. The foot soldiers are Khalid al-Midar and Nawaf al-Hazmi. This is the phone call that sets in motion the 9/11 attacks.
After picking up this critical call, NSA passed on their first names to the FBI and the CIA but not their last names. Nawaf's last name had been in NSA's database for over a year because of his association with bin Laden's operations center in Yemen. But apparently the NSA never looked it up.
The CIA does find Almidar's name in its database. They ask security agents to make a copy of his passport as he passes through a checkpoint in Dubai. When analysts at CIA headquarters see it, they are astonished to find a valid U.S. visa inside. Alex Station, the CIA's bin Laden unit, now has 2 FBI agents detailed to it, Doug Miller and Mark Rossini.
Once they arrived in Kuala Lumpur, of course, CIA requested the intelligence service over there in Malaysia to conduct surveillance of these subjects and find out as much as they can. They took photographs, followed them, and you read from that one of the individuals had a visa to come to the U.S.
Fearing an al-Qaeda terrorist may be headed to the U.S., the agents are determined to tell the FBI, but a CIA official will not allow it.
I guess I was the more senior agent. So I went up to the individual that had the ticket on the Yemeni cell, the Yemeni operatives, and I said to her, I said, what's going on? You know, we got to tell the Bureau about this. These guys clearly are bad. One of them at least has a multiple entry visa to the U.S. We got to tell the FBI. And then she said to me, no, it's not the FBI's case, not the FBI's jurisdiction. So I go tell Doug, and I'm like, Doug, what can we do? If we had picked up the phone and called the Bureau, I would have been violating the law. I would have broken the law. I would have been removed from the building that day. I would have had my clearances suspended, and I would have been gone. If we had picked up the phone and called the Bureau, I would have been violating the law. I would have broken the law. I would have been removed from the building that day. I would have had my clearances suspended, and I would have been gone.
This is one of the most astonishing parts of the story. The CIA had FBI operatives working within their bin Laden unit. But when the FBI operatives found out that one and possibly 2 of the terrorists had visas to the United States, were heading for the United States, the CIA wouldn't let them tell their headquarters that they were coming. Only the FBI could have put out alerts to stop Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi if they tried to enter the United States. Incredibly, the NSA never informed the FBI that these calls were coming from the United States, and we may never know why. No one from NSA will discuss it, and the 9/11 Commission never investigated it. They either didn't realize the 2 terrorists were calling from the United States, which is hard to believe because even I have caller ID which shows where a call is coming from, or what's more likely is that they ignored it because they would have had to hand the contacts over to the FBI.
After the hijackers arrive in the U.S., NSA Director Michael Hayden hints at another possible explanation for NSA's silence. Already warned by Congress to respect Americans' privacy rights, Hayden responds to the House Intelligence Committee with extreme caution.
Let me put a fine point on this. If, as we are speaking here this afternoon, Osama bin Laden is walking across the Peace Bridge from Niagara Falls, Ontario to Niagara Falls, New York, as he gets to the New York side, he is an American person, and my agency must respect his rights against unreasonable search and seizure as provided by the 4th Amendment to the Constitution.
But General Hayden knew the law permitted the agency to eavesdrop on the terrorists without interruption if they entered the United States.
You could link back who they were, their connection to bin Laden, connection to the Yemeni house, etc. You could have gone to any court and any judge in the FISA court and say, we want a FISA on that resident of San Diego. It would have been easy. And we would have surveilled them. And we would have learned more information. People who are going to watch this, they're going to say, oh, it's hindsight 2020. But no, I'm not talking hindsight 2020. I'm talking basic logical investigation.
The crew drives into the Maryland town of Laurel and checks into the low-budget Valencia motel. By now, they have their final assignment, targeting the Pentagon.
Throughout their whole journey, whether they were in San Diego, or they were in New Jersey, or they were in Laurel, Maryland, They were communicating back and forth to the bin Laden Ops Center in Yemen. NSA was listening in on the Ops Center, recording the conversations and then transcribing them. But the NSA never alerted any other agency that the terrorists were in the United States and moving across the country towards Washington.
On the face of it, Laurel, Maryland looks like a typical Washington suburb.
What's very different is that this town happens to be right next door to NSA's headquarters.